Arab countries view the current issues in energy, because the world can go one day in a big war or go to peace with the event related to energy. I mean, one of the issues is, we have the Russian-Ukraine conflict and its impact on energy. And previous to that, we have the energy transition and how the world want to protect the humans from global warming. So we had energy transition and all the complexity and the challenge facing today the governments and the people who get engaged economically and politically in the energy sector. Really, it is very complex. It's very complex. We thought before energy is oil and gas and nobody will interfere. But I found out it's difficult to separate politics from energy. I mean, it is easy to separate water from oil, but impossible to separate politics from energy. I usually, when I talk in the past, I make a presentation. I have 50-40 slides, but really from my experience lately in the last few years, I find the slides and the presentation limit me and limit the delegates to what we want to discuss. So forums and free dialogues is very important. It give us no limitation. And by the way, mostly they email the slides and they read the slide in the presentation. It's a waste of time. 80% of your time is wasted. But hopefully by discussing this issue with you, and I welcome any interface, discussion, comments during my commentary and my speech. Okay, so we're not going to wait until the end to ask questions. You can ask me for my opinion, my views regarding to current issues, and it's me to just to deliver to you my prospect, how we view things from this side of the world. Okay, and if we take one of the hot subjects that I've tried to write something here, we talk about energy transition. And energy transition, for me, I will say energy conversion rather than try, because when you use the word transition, you need to eliminate parts. Okay, they want to eliminate fossil fuel. This is unfair to eliminate fossil fuel from the energy supply chain, because fossil fuel is 80% of 100 trillion business in the world. And 80% of our resources comes from fossil fuel. Of course, there is other renewable, but you cannot come on the account of I want to reduce a lot or eliminate to go into energy transitions. This is one of the reasons I think energy transition may be delayed or face a great challenge, or it may have also diverted because of the economics. We've seen when COVID pandemic came and when the Russian conflict came, many of the energy transition projects were delayed or put off. One reason is the finance to that. And other issues that challenging to the energy transition is that the speed of the requirement. Policymaker, they came and they said, we will stop nuclear plants, we will stop coal plants. Okay, and what happened? They diverted to natural gas. The natural gas prices went up. Not because of the war, it's before the war. Natural gas went up because the demand went so high on natural gas. So the speed and the interference of politics with economics. So it will create economics hardship we have inflation. One of the reasons of inflation is the speed of energy transition. So they wanted policymakers, they wanted every country to give a deadline. Give me 2030, 2040, 2050, 2060. Give me a deadline when you can reach CO2 emission to net zero. The way it's handled, it may be a perfect for a politician, but for an energy point of view, especially from the other side of the world, because you have developed countries and countries that want to develop.
When did you get back?
Yes.
How are you? How are you doing?
I'm good.
You're following the
Yeah,
briefing.
Yes. Welcome everybody who comes.
Can you mute anybody coming in?
Yeah, I think Mr. Friday just entered and he muted. Thank you, Roxanne.
Okay. Green. See, they said transition to green. Very good. I have my green cup. I'm drinking my water. I have my green light here in my office. I don't know if you see the light. Okay. Yeah, green is very simple word. Okay. Green color is very nice. My favorite color. But when you come to energy transition, they said we want to go green by reaching the net zero CO2 emission. And Greens, I think they are very quiet recently. Now, very quiet. The Green organization I'm talking about, a Greenpeace or the Green organization. They are very quiet because they have seen the transition side effects and negative side effects, which has created inflation in the world. Energy prices went up, gasoline prices went, oil prices went up. So there is no doubt energy transition will continue taking place as a continuing process, not as a deadline process. Putting a deadline in a country by 2030 or 2040, you need to stop coal or stop diesel cars or all these conditions, part of the transition. I think they are not practical. From my point of view, they will lead to failures. They will make unbalance. Because imagine what we burn in coal and gas and oil. It's almost 3 times the oil, because oil we burn 103 barrel per day, and coal almost 112 of oil equivalent barrel per day, and gas a little bit moderate, 60. But now gas will go up, will burn more. Unfortunately, many things came out from this COP, which is the climate conferences to reduce temperature by 2030, not above 1.3 degree, and then they revise it, and they will put target for the weather control or weather global warming. And they are blaming the global warming in CO2 and the use of fossil fuel. Okay, and they are asking every country to stop emission, reduce emission. Okay, reduce emission by 50% only. So 50% will be in fossil fuel, 50% in green. You could do that, but you will not solve the problem. You will still have CO2 emissions, and CO2 emission will grow with demand growing. So you will still have all the CO2 emissions in the world. So in 2050, we will have the same CO2 now, today. And still we are saying there is a global warming from the amount of emission we have today. So the target, they are claiming we want to arrest the growth of CO2 emission. Maybe impossible, maybe possible. we always say to these conferences, and the challenge is to imagine the unimaginable. And we see some of the unimaginable to imagine. Okay, everybody thinks it's easy to reduce fossil fuel and make the unbalance. As I said before, worlds are split between developed country and countries undeveloped or underdevelopment. So what USA and Norway and Germany can do today in the green side, impossible for other countries to do. So they may take the chance of the rejected fossil fuel by the developed country and be used in the undeveloped country. So they will have a chance of that. Unimaginable. Another unimaginable that we need to think about with the energy transition is that we may move from investing in fossil fuel and investing in mining. So we'll increase the number of mining by increasing the number of tunneling and earth movement. And that may create also other problems that we need to imagine. Too much mining will impact probably in environment and will impact in global warming. So it's still unbalanced. If we assume CO2 is the problem, then why don't we tell the people who use fossil fuel to capture the CO2 as what has been the practice in some of the industries? They have spent billions of dollars to capture CO2 and convert it into rocks or other fuel or other things, so it does not come back as CO2. Storing it underground as CO2 or under the ocean, it will come back as CO2 for many reasons. It will come back up, even to convert it into, let's call it with hydrogen to methanol, it will come back as CO2. So these trillions of dollars assigned for energy transition should go in eliminating CO2 emission in the industries with the economics, with the most efficient and economic way. By means, it is not necessary to go to the cement plant, or the steel plant, and say, at that location, I will capture CO2. Because CO2 in Africa or in China or near a cement plant is almost the same concentration. So if you are to collect 1 million tons of CO2, do it at the place where it is most efficient and where the source of a fuel, if it is electricity or something, is available from a green, clean source and at the most economical way. So for me personally, it will be challenging to reduce CO2, which is related to fertilizer, to steel, to cement, because these are our, our day life and life. I know almost $1 trillion was spent in EVs and renewable energy, like windmill and PV power station. That is only in 22, almost one. And personally, I don't think electrical vehicle gonna solve the problem, or solve the benzene problem in the developed world, let's call it, not only in the undeveloped world. So electrical vehicles will be charged by electricity from where? From the solar or EV, wind? No, it's still a low percentage. It will be charged by electricity from natural gas. And we're going to increase the demand for natural gas. And that will keep, it's a cycle. If you look at the blockchain cycle, it will have a blockchain cycle to produce CO2. So personally, I don't believe electrical vehicle will reduce CO2 emissions. It will create economic hardship. It will be expensive. It will be a prestige to the developed world. The undeveloped world will utilize unwanted gasoline for their transportation. It could be with methanol, like they do in India now. 20% methanol is mixed with their gasoline to make it a low carbon fuel once burned. From this energy transition and the fight against or the war against fossil fuel, I see that, you know, it's from a humanity point of view, burning oil or coal or natural gas to produce electricity is a little bit of, I will say, insult. So I'm thinking like the Greens now, the Green people, an insult to this commodity. It's a gift from God. It's a blessing. It's a commodity. To burn it, to produce electricity, I see even from an energy person, even from an engineering point of view, I see it's an insult to this commodity. We should, of course, we should use other sources like windmill and nuclear and atomic energy to produce electricity. Natural gas, oil, and coal should be converted to materials using the process of petrochemical industrial processes that we all know to produce anything we need. Tape, paper, plastic, polymers, things that, you know, in our laptops that cover in our, you know, even in our EV cars, we need this material to be converted to that. So we said energy conversion for fossil is one solution. Capturing CO2 and converting it to rocks, for example, and keep it underground as a rockified, like current projects are going on. There is, in the world, there is more than 10 projects to convert CO2 to rock and keep it rockified under rock substance in a shallow geological formation, and it is successful. Investment to be on that, investment to convert this fossil fuel to commodities like polymers, plastic, also, you know, fertilizer. We need fertilizer because it is the basic need for our food supply chain.
Excuse me, Khalid brother.
Yes.
We have one question from Roxanne. If you allow, he will
Yes,
going to ask
yes.
a question, please. Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Roxanne, you can ask your question, please.
All right, thank you very much, Jawad, Mr. President. My name is Roxanne, the Secretary of SPE. I am a PhD student and I'm researching on hydrogen storage. I just have some couple of questions that I want to ask so that as the discussion that is going on, we can be able to follow very well. But so far, experience and insightful presentation so far. I'm enjoying it. My question is, do you think whether energy transition is sustainable? If it is yes, what are some of the policy do you think, as a policymaker, you are supposed to put in place to reach net zero agenda that everybody is working on?
Okay. Let me understand the question. So if it is sustainable. Okay, sustainable, I may agree with it, but I may not agree it is reliable. Let's take an example, what happened in Texas freeze in March of 2020. Texas freeze proven that, you know, green energy transition was not sustainable, not reliable, but sustainable. You may generate electricity from wind or from hydro or from the solar rays. But when the clouds are there, when it is too cloudy for 2 weeks, when the wind shut down or calm down, when the hydro, some in the northern freezes, you will not have reliable energy. It is sustainable. The sun is there, but it is not reliable. Take the opposite side. If you have natural gas in a power plant, natural gas, you can store it. And if there is any interruption, the fuel is natural gas. The freeze, the climate change, the things that we've seen will not affect natural gas. I haven't seen any problem in power plant that uses coal or natural gas. Is not reliable. It is reliable. I will say the fuel in the solar system is the sun. The fuel in the power plant is the natural gas. The sun might disappear at night and disappear in cloudy days, but the natural gas does not disappear. It's always there. It's either in the storage or in the pipeline flowing to you. So it is reliable. Sustainable natural gas, it depends how much you have. I always doubt the proven reserve that published by EIA or somebody there or any other. There is no, I think there is no clarity, too much privacy maybe. Technology is not enough to produce or to publish proven reserve. Proven reserve in many countries, especially in the advanced technological in the United States. I don't believe the proven reserve in oil and gas published by the state. So this puts the ambiguity, okay, in sustainability of fossil fuel. But there is no doubt about reliability. If you, the one point, if you take it regarding the proven reserve in gas and oil, if you go and see how much, search for how much gas is being used in, produced in USA, it's almost 100 billion cubic foot per day. And the reserve they published proven is 650. So with the growth of 6-7%, the gas should finish in 12 years. I don't think a country that say a gas proven reserve will finish in 12 years and continue to produce 100 billion cubic foot per day. That's totally unbelievable. I think the reserves is probably 10 times what has been published. It's not 650, it's 6,000. So this is where, sustainability is taken away from fossil fuel and it's giving to renewables. Energy transition is a sustainable process. Yes, I agree with that. Going to the a target to say it is reliable, I don't think it's reliable. Take, for example, also another example. In Glasgow COP27, the committee, the conference for the weather, every country was there. I think the US president went back after the 1 week conference in UK, which is, the environment and the weather protection conference. And he went back to the United States and asked all the oil company, especially Exxon and Chevron, Total, to produce more oil. I need more oil to produce, even double it. Now, this goes against the sustainability plan of the energy transition. But what he did is right from my side. I am an oil man. I'm an energy man. What he did is right. But from the commitment, from the sustainable commitment that was made in COP, it's a total opposite direction. So things like this could hurt and make the energy transition unreliable. One last example. The conflict that happened recently with Ukraine may delay many projects in energy transition. It's a small, I think it's a small conflict. No nuclear weapon were used, only tactics, the normal conflict. We had bigger than it in Iraq and in Afghanistan, 10 times or more bigger. Even the Syrian war, the latest one, is much bigger than this conflict. And look what happened to the energy transition because of the Russian conflict with Ukraine. Delayed a lot. Why? Because it created economics hardship. Inflation went, economics went so high. Everything became expensive. There was less money to spend in this money guzzling project, like, windmill and solar plant, and wherever, it's needed. So this is the third example. I may move to say sustainability is jeopardized by many events around the world. COVID, economics hardships, inflation, conflict in the world. Conflict can, divert people, economics, fund, investment to burning coal. We see the German, how much coal they burn when the conflict started. And they were supposed to shut down all the coal by 2025, all the coal plant. And 50% of the coal plant that they have shut it because of in 2020, they reopened, they restarted. They went back to Stone Age, burning more wood and coal to generate electricity because of expensive natural gas and expensive services and the lack of investment for other things. And now they are building infrastructure for natural gas, infrastructure for nuclear energy, which they were damned. Nuclear energy and infrastructure for natural gas were damned and recommended not to take any penny by the Energy Transmission Committee, recognized by COP. The next COP will be in Abu Dhabi, in Dubai. Okay. And I think this issue will be discussed. How to make energy transition more sustainable. In my opinion, still until now, not reliable, because we've seen all these hiccups. So this, I hope I answered your question with these examples that really, the real thing that happened.
Excuse me, Brother Khalid, excuse me.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Excuse me, Brother Khalid, we have two questions from Asghar Sajjad. Asghar Sajjad is in Houston, and he's almost 75 years old, and he has 40-year experience in oil and gas industry. And we have a question from Amjad Saidi Azdan as well. So
Go ahead.
Yeah, Asghar Shahid and Saab and Amjad Saab, you can please ask your questions. Hello.
Okay, we could go to Texas.
Yeah, yeah, they will come back maybe. I'm just texting him. You can please continue.
Khalid Mohammed, I have one or two questions. Should I ask you now, or can we have it after your presentation?
No. This is not a presentation. It's a forum. I can say it's a forum, and we can have a dialogue.
This is interactive discussion, brainstorming.
Yes.
So Khalid, one of the question is, what is your expert opinion about the fossil fuel production in 2035, when the electric vehicle utilization will be like 70%? As you know that the green authorities, they are putting pressure on majority of the countries, and in America, 70 to 80% of the vehicles will be electric. So it will be must to have those electric vehicles.
Yeah. Okay. See, electrical vehicles. Yeah.
So my question is, what will be the fuel production at that time when these vehicles will be converted to electric?
Mm-hmm.
And the second question.
Okay. No. Let's answer the first question.
Okay. I got it.
Okay. Fine. Electrical vehicle, in my opinion, is not something new. We have seen it in our previous generation, even in our children's toys. Okay. the current investment is too high on them, and the growth, it was expected to be an exponential growth. Okay, so in a short time to go up 70% by 2030, I think it's not achievable. It has been proven, and Dr. Jorgen, also he, in his publication in Bloomberg and in Reuters and in his book also, The Roadmap, I agree with him. It's not possible to reach that because the resources and the raw material to have over 1 billion cars in EV will be almost impossible because, mining, too much minings and, invasion of other countries will be required to accelerate and excavate and mine all the rare earth, this earth material to make the needed raw material to make EVs, especially in the batteries. And now not only in the battery, they have problem. They have problem even in the IC chip because of the conflict we've seen in the transistors. Even if we reach, I will say 10% by 2025, 2030, we may reach 35. It will not be that fast to get EVs in the market. There is a resistance for EV because of the hardware and raw material. Second thing, not all the transportation depends on EV. And EV will be a privilege to developed countries only. They're not going to have EVs in Africa and in South America and many parts of heavily populated Asian countries like Indonesia and Pakistan. Even India is working very hard to get EVs for many reasons. One, they want to reduce the pollution. They tried LPG and they tried methane gas in their vehicle. It all failed. Still, the pollution is there. EV is a solution, but in my opinion, we will not see EV up to 50% until 2050. By 2050, I think we may reach 50% of the cars. At that time, the internal combustion engines will have also lifted because of the population growth. Okay, so it will not, in my opinion, it will not reduce the natural gas production. It will not reduce coal production because they don't go in that sector of gasoline sector. We come to producing of crude oil. Yes, 60% of the crude oil goes to the transportation, aviation, marine, and land transportation, which is using gasoline. I think even if it affects crude oil to a certain percent, I think it will be it will not reach 10%, 5%, but the growth for oil is there. Oil has a lot of demand in many parts of of our life. If before you make gasoline, we have to convert crude oil to naphtha. Naphtha is very demanded raw material for many petrochemicals industries. So it will take a different route. Not because the EV introduction came online with a moderate percentage, and crude oil will not come down because of EV. It will come down because of other factors. One of them is the decline, the natural decline on the wells. Natural decline is there. And also the phenomena or the belief of oil peak and oil disappearance, or let's say all the oil reserve will finish by 2100. So people will try to retrieve back. I think cutting crude oil production will be done because of this belief, because of oil peak and oil may disappear. but not because of the EV. EV will play a small role on that. Okay, and fossil fuel, as we said, there is more oil equivalent in coal and natural gas, and by 2030 it may double. So natural gas and coal is fossil fuel, and I think it will continue. It's easy to reduce coal than reducing crude oil. Okay, because there is many alternatives to coal than alternative to crude oil. And we've seen recently when in the energy transition, when we try to reduce coal, that other product sector of like natural gas prices went up. So we need to slow down on this. Okay, the other question.
Yeah, but thank you very much, Khalid. You explained in detail. So my other question is, you have already mentioned, but just wanted to, regarding the battery for EV, that will be, those are manufactured through carbon material. Am I right?
No, graphite, lithium, cadmium, and plastic and copper.
Okay, so where they are going to dispose these batteries after like 5 to 10 years, when they are off, or they are what you can deplete, yeah. So where they are going to dispose these batteries, because they are big batteries in the car. It is almost the floor, you can say. It is installed just beneath the floor of the car.
Yes, it's half the weight of the car almost.
Yeah, half the weight of the car. Yeah. So where they are going to dispose it of.
Okay. All right. See, part of the green initiatives in the energy transition is one of the challenges is to recycle these batteries. So companies that make these batteries, they will have to commitment before licensing is issued to them. And this, of course, you can control this in US and in Europe. It may not be able to control it in South America, China, or India. But part of the initiative is to be able to recycle 100% of what you produce from these batteries. And by the way, these batteries, they have a lot of rare earth metal. They are, I think, it's also a commodity for scrap merchant. Many people will love to have them, and they will pay a lot of money for them. So, I mean, they might pay also 50% of their cost. Their life cycle currently exceeds 10 years. Even the batteries that I worry about is the batteries that installed in power banks for PV power station, for windmill, because power banks are greater and bigger and 100 times in volume than the batteries in the EV. Okay, power banks that is used in the renewable energy or the clean energy. So those also are worries for the industries. But policies and protocols are made to recycle these batteries with advances in technology. I think after their, let's say 10 years, when we have a lot of junk of them, I think we will have the technologies to recycle 100% of them. So, you know, you can take them and use them and almost use 100% of the disposed battery to make new batteries from them. That is, I can see that because the technology is for that. And this is the next part I wanted to talk in my presentation after energy transition is the artificial intelligence.
Excuse me, Khalid brother,
yes.
Going to the artificial intelligence, we have a question from Asghar Sajjad and one question from Roxanne. If you would like to take the question, please.
Sajjad, okay.
Sajjad, you can ask the question.
Hello, Mr. Khalid. Thank you for a very, very beautiful presentation, the discussion. I'm a petroleum engineer since 1973, more than 50 years now. And I have heard of a lot of stories in my life, about the reserves are limited. They will vanish away very soon. But, I am there now for 50 years still.
Yes,
The
I get
oil
it.
is still there, and I don't think it is going to go anywhere because the
I
reserves are,
agree.
even the people today don't know what are the reserves. And every day when the price goes up, the activities go up, and they start finding a lot of oil. You can see the news right now. A lot of discoveries are going on right now because the price is very high and everybody is trying to find oil. Now,
Yes,
on the other hand, when the price goes up, the transition activities goes up, people start thinking of alternate energies, alternate sources. Once this price will go down, everybody will sleep. There will be no more activities, people will, because it's too expensive. So basically, I think it's the price which is the most important in this whole thing, transition in the activities in the oil and gas industry. And keeping that thing in view, what do you think is the future of oil and gas? I think, this is my point of view, that I have not seen anything. People have been living on this oil and gas industry, and they have been living with this energy source for more than 100 years now. But
sure. Yes, yes. Okay, my views. See, I went to a university. I studied, the evolution of mankind, and I've studied the theory of oil came from dinosaurs and gas. I studied that in the academic book, and I've answered this question as per the academic books to pass and get my degree. But personally, after all that, I don't believe oil and gas came from dinosaur at all. That's just, a funny story. I will call it for a funny book. Same for the evolution of mankind. It's just, lack of faith and lack of knowledge. We have knowledge, we gain knowledge through our experiences, and we have faith knowledge. So oil and gas, in my belief, did not come from dinosaurs. So these were implanted by the creator of the heaven and the earth. Now, for oil to deplete and gas to deplete, humanity needs to deplete first. This is my theory. I've said this in many of my news channels and the satellite live. There is no oil depletion theory that I believe. I think there will be enough oil and gas for all human mankind. And I think human mankind will disappear before oil and gas disappear from Earth. So this is how I see it. And yes, you are right about the proven reserve of oil and gas. It's increasing. There is, confidentialities, and there is prices related. Yes, I agree with that. And I also said this before. I've seen, I have slide of that. I've seen the energy department in the USA and in many countries. They publish numbers that are very low. And for example, they are publishing that Venezuela has the most oil reserve in the world. I don't believe that. I believe the United States have 10 times more than Venezuela. So Venezuela is number one, and then comes Iraq and Saudi Arabia and Russia and Iran. The United States is off the map. If you go to the 20 countries with oil reserve, USA is not there. But personally, looking at the consumptions and refining capacity in the United States, and the reason refining capacity has frozen for the last 20 years, the amount of oil that uses in the United States, there is no way I believe that the number published about oil reserve in the state is correct. I think it is 100 times that. And also oil with all it is kind, shale, conventional, non-conventional, condensate, wellhead, not wellhead, refinery, process, they name it what they name it. There is 100 times more than what is published as proven reserve for oil in the United States. And I think the United States is the biggest country of oil reserve, but it's not published. This is my opinion after studying many of the consumption patterns and the growth that we get it with with the prices changes and how much oil discoveries we have. I think United States for both oil and gas is #1 country of proven oil and reserve. And I am sure for all the people who are working in the oil and gas sector, for even the generation to come from colleges, we have more than 100 years of career in that sector and production in that sector. More than 100 years. They publish 10, 12, 15 years. This is totally incorrect. So there is that's my opinion.
That's exactly what I believe, and because God has created this world, and I don't think the resources are going to go away before this world is going to go away.
Sure.
So
yes, sure. Especially with the nuclear armory we have in the world, and all the threats coming. You might,
excuse me, Khalid,
sure,
brother. We have few questions from geologists, because we have geologists in the group as well. So we have petroleum engineer and geologists. So if we talk about the dinosaurs and the origin of oil and gas, it's like a theory. So my personal perspective is that there is a difference between fact and theory. So do you believe that we would the Mendeleev theory is then good? Correct that there's actually a chemical process happen beneath the earth, and the oil and gas came into existence because of this high pressure and temperature, because of that, not of dinosaur. So if you please comment on this, from the geologist point of view, it would be great. Thank you.
Okay. See, one thing I always tell my friends and my students, you need to have the sense of quantum. When you make your calculation, mathematical calculation in energy or anything, and you get a number, a big number or a small number, you should have the sense to disbelieve that, oh, no way, it cannot be this low. Oh, no way, it cannot be this high. That sense of quantum is very important in the education system. And I like it in the British system is more than in the American system. In the American system is, but in the Arabic system where I am, it is almost zero. You just memorize and don't worry, don't have a sense of feeling to the quantum. I always take a student, and they talk about simple things, kilocalories or MMBTU or million of barrel. I tell them, what is a million of barrel? Describe to me a million barrel of oil or water. What does it mean? Or a million cubic meter of flow per hour. What does it mean to you? How do you feel it? How do you quantify it? Compare it to buildings, compare it to number of rocks, mountains. Give me the sense of it. This is part of energy conversion. You convert units, but you may get conversion of units correct 100% and get a good mark. But if you don't have the sense of it, the feeling, how big is 1 million barrel per day? Okay, so we are producing 103 million barrel per day. Tell me how many dinosaurs, and if there is enough to accommodate that. In the laboratory, they proved that chemical reaction has from organic material. It could be trees, could be, I've studied this theory in the books. It can be with certain pressure and temperature, it converts to oil, to crude oil. Proven also the sulfur proves that. Yes, there is no doubt the right temperature and the right pressure will convert organic material to oil. That's the process as when Earth was created. It was dust and lights and all that process. But imagine how many dinosaurs in kiloton, in a million ton, to produce all the oil equivalent of energy we've been using for years. We've been using almost now 280, or I would say 300 million of barrel of oil every day. 300 million of barrel equivalent every day. Tell me how many dinosaurs you need for that. How many trees? You will not find a place on Earth because Earth is mostly water. And originally it was water. So most of Earth is water. get the jungles, then the jungles in the Amazon all disappeared and the jungle. So if dinosaurs were the source of oil, the people who said this 50 years ago, based on laboratory, they did not know, 50 years ago, they didn't know that in 2020 and now we will be consuming almost 300 million barrels per day. I will say one dinosaur will give us 2 or 3 barrels. So you're talking about millions per day, huh? Per day. And how many days we are talking now? I'm saying we will have another 100 years. Some people say 50 years. How many days of that? Multiply it by 300 million of barrel oil equivalent per day. The land that we live in will not have a space for dinosaurs. To feed these dinosaurs, they probably ate all the trees. There will not be enough water for them to drink. So there is what we call it the quantum. What do you imagine? This is what I've said previously. We need, in the energy transition, we need to imagine the unimaginable. It is totally unimaginable how many dinosaurs we need to have on Earth to accommodate this amount of oil. I don't, these my reasons. Huh? Just a quantum area, just go into quantum and count the number of dinosaurs you need to produce. And there is more oil also to found. So if the people 50 years ago knew that we will be burning this much equivalent, they will not think about dinosaurs and trees for coal. They will not think. They will have another thinking, another theory to the source of this commodity and wealth. Just like iron, core, gold, and other things. They're not a process of earth and lightning and chemical reaction on earth. They were implanted on earth. That sometimes it helps, to relax your mind, how this came up, where the oil came, where the iron ore came. Relax it when you have alternatives, alternatives, theory and belief, rather than sticking with the one on the academic books. I will not go in the academic arena and say that, but I do say it.
Mr. Khalid,
yes.
I think you are absolutely right. Then nobody talk about what's the source of gold and iron and all the minerals. Why they talk about what's the source for the oil? God has created that exactly the way He has created everything else. Kun fayakun.
Yes. That's be to be and will be. Yes, exactly. Okay. There was a question regarding artificial intelligence and digitization in the oil in the energy sector. Is that still there?
No, I think if we can exhaust the questions on the energy transition, and then we'll listen to your presentation on that. That will be fine. I don't think there was a question on that yet. Yeah,
Roxanne, we have one question from Mr. MD Zakaria. So MD, you can ask the question, and then we will move for the digitalization topic, please.
I think I have a couple of questions still on the energy.
Okay, so MD, you ask the question, and then we will give opportunity to Roxanne, and you please ask the question, Roxanne, and then we will move for the digitalization topic, please.
Okay, so thank you.
Mr. Khalid, for your informative session, and excuse me everyone for the interruptions. So I would like to ask a question on Mr. Khalid's comment on electric vehicle, and you were saying it's a prestigious invention for the developed countries, but still we have to depend, like the developing countries have to depend on the petroleum resources in every way. You were right at some point, according to the Sustainable Development Goals number 7, because we have to provide the affordable energy for everyone. So electric vehicle, for sure, is not an affordable energy for everyone. But at the same time, it's my personal opinion, we could reduce the dependency of petroleum throughout the world. You can see in America, 70% of oil they are consuming for the transportation. So why don't you support the energy transmission to electric vehicle so that we could save huge quantities of petroleum and petroleum dependency on petroleum for transportations and other purposes? So I truly believe it's a good idea. This is the right time to change this sector to the electric vehicle. So I would like to appreciate what's your thinking like about
Sure.
this transitional period. So
Okay.
that was my question.
Sure. I see. The electrification of the transportation system using one part is EV. I am in a full support to that, and it will happen, no doubt, but it will not happen at the question previously raised. It will be 70% by 2030 or 2025. And it will not happen that fast because there's a lot of mining behind that. I like to see all the vehicle in the world electrical. Okay, but we need to imagine something else. It will not affect, as we said, the oil, the crude oil. I didn't say the benzene or gasoline. The gasoline may go down to 60, 70%, yes. But the crude oil will not go down because of the introducing of the EV. EV is good for the environment. It will clean the roads, okay? It may not reduce CO2 a lot because where does the electricity come from? It does not come from clean energy. It will come from natural gas. Most of the electricity for EV, it will come from natural gas, but still it will be cleaner than using gasoline and better than even gasoline, 20% ethanol gasoline, much better electricity. I agree with that, and I support that. And I'd love to see electrical vehicles in all the roads. Electrical energies, they have expensive vehicles. They have expensive parts. Okay, and if they reduce the demand for gasoline in the United States, which they will, the extra gasoline, where it will go? Gasoline will be produced also from crude oil. Refineries will have to work around the world. So it will go to the other countries where they can afford ICU, internal combustion engine, ICE, okay, vehicles. And the other part of the world, 50% of the world, is also growing in population, in more than the developed world. If you see the birth growth rate in developed, that's why I said prestige for developed world. The birth rates in developed world is very low. In some countries in the minus or zero. The birth rates are too high in the undeveloped and developing countries. Like, you know, it's huge, the birth rate. So they will need vehicles. And I don't think they will go to electrical vehicles because, you know, the demand already taken by the developed world. And they will not have the economics, the investment, the cash for EVs. I cannot afford electrical vehicle. I was, you know, but my daughter insisting. So if I'm going to buy one for my daughter, I will abandon myself. I will not be able to pay for 2 cars. So every family in the developing world have 3 vehicles in a household. In the US is 2, average 2. So I support, and I think it's good for the environment, but I am pessimistic about reducing crude oil demand because of the introduction of the EV. In some part of the country, it will reduce gasoline. Yes, gasoline will go down in Europe, especially in Europe. And Europe is more demanding and more stiff than the US. And I've been to Madrid. If your car is not hybrid, you cannot enter central Madrid. Okay, so there is a ban in vehicle. They already started that. There is many ban in buying a new car in diesel in Europe. there is ban also in usage of area. So if you to renew it, you have to pay higher taxes. They give you exemption from taxes if you have a hybrid or electrical car. So I think Europe is more accelerating regarding EVs, and but it's lower number. The United States uses 8 million barrel of gasoline every day. That's very huge. That's why, you know, the price is of a high concern. Yes, it is.
Excuse me. I actually did like for the electric vehicle, maybe I'm wrong, but you know, we don't need the high percentage of petroleum resources support for EV, like electric vehicle, because for the electric vehicle, we use, you know, the battery and other like the lithium resources we could use for the charge and other supported things. But petrol, you mentioned like for providing the like the charge or other things, we are using petroleum, right? For the
Yeah, we're using gas, natural gas for charging. To charge the car, you need natural gas. So the still is not friendly. By the way, the United States doesn't have lithium and cadmium and enough copper to build batteries for their cars. They don't have it. So they have to, you know, mine it in some other countries.
Excuse me, Khalid, brother. We have one question from Roxanne. Before his question, I would like to just ask the question that what I got from as a conclusion from the whole talk is that, yes, of course, the demand of oil and gas is incredibly increasing, and it also depends on the geopolitical environment in the world. And, you know, the population of the world is increasing, though there is a development has been, I mean, the people are working on renewables and hydrogen, other stuff. But I think it's not very easy to switch from oil and gas to other resources, you know, in 10 years or maybe 15 years. And, you know, as you mentioned, lots of industry, they need natural gas specifically. And even the electric car, if they goes for charging, they need the natural gas. And the other part of the world, if you look to the population, so the India and Pakistan and the whole Asia, they still have to need lots of natural resources. And it's quite difficult for them to adopt the e-vehicles and that part as well. So my question is, for example, do you think if the United States is hardly working on the CCUS projects and they are going to, maximize the carbon dioxide emissions? So do you think if, for example, if they make it possible to reduce the carbon emissions in the coming decade, it's not quite easy, but it's like they're working. So do you think so if they become successful in the future, like maybe 10, 12, 20 years, so it will again boost up the oil and gas boom, because, the people will think, okay, now we can produce the oil and natural gas, but now on the other hand, we can, work on the carbon capture and storage, and that carbon is CO2 can be also used for the EUR projects and the cement factories, and all the demand of the carbon dioxide is much more good in the next 10 years. So do you think so that these advancements could also support the oil and gas exploration and production in the future?
Yes, this is where we move into digitization and artificial intelligence. With more money invested in digitization and artificial intelligence, especially in universities and in R&D labs and institutes, it will help the energy transition to reduce CO2 emissions. Because the target of energy transition is to reduce, not to reduce fossil fuel, but the process fossil fuel, but the ultimate target is to reduce CO2.
Exactly.
To reduce CO2 with artificial intelligence and digitization is possible with continuing to use natural gas and coal and oil. Yes, with reduced amount. The thing is that the same people who is asking for reducing CO2 emission, they are asking and marking natural gas as a green. I've heard that myself in one of the COP presentation. Natural gas cannot be green. Natural gas is still a fossil fuel. So they said, no, but natural gas is one of the renewable energy sources. That's funny also. And they said it is one of the friendly fuel. No, that Only that they could exclude only, atomic energy and nuclear energy. Nuclear fuel and energy, I will say yes. It is renewable and it is green and it is friendly. Okay, but not natural gas. Also, natural gas, the more you produce natural gas, the more the demand for it, what will happen? Crude oil and coal will be converted to natural gas. So they can market it as natural gas. So what will happen? Crude oil and coal will still move, will still maintain its production. It will still have extra need. So what are they doing? They are creating more need for oil and coal to produce natural gas. And then natural gas will, it's a friendly. This is totally wrong. Natural gas is not friendly, still same as diesel or aviation fuel, jet fuel, same as them. The carbon reduction on CO2 of uses natural gas is little low, but it is one of the most pollutant. I will say natural gas is a pollutant as oil, because part of natural gas, the particle itself of natural gas, the methane, when it goes up in the ionosphere, where all the reaction happening for the global warming by reflecting the sun ray back to Earth, because this is what CO2 does. CO2 atoms, they are in the upper elevation, ionospheres, and reflect back heat. The same thing when you are producing more natural gas, you are producing more emittance or bleeds. We call it bleeds or flare, not flaring, emitting of natural gas. One atom of methane has an impact of 80 times one atom of CO2 in reflection of the sun rays back to Earth, that causing global warming. So this is the scientific theory, and this is what was published in all the energy transition conferences. So natural gas has that power or impact to reflect 80 times one atom to one atom of CO2. So even in North Dakota, South Dakota, see how much flares we have. The more flares you have, the more CO2 will escape. CO2 is escaping because of bleeds, maintenance on gas pipeline. Sometimes they don't have and natural bleeds. So natural, and sometimes you see depressurizing of big pipelines with high pressure. I mean, it's so huge that you can now monitor it by satellite. In Iraq and part of USA, in the Middle East, there is a lot of emittance of natural gas. So what happens in the energy transition? You will ask for more natural gas. The more natural gas you ask, the more emittance of natural gas will take, even if you have flaring system.
T-O into C-A-R.
Yes.
N.
So, okay. Thank you very much. I'm going to ask my last questions on energy transition, and we will listen to you and artificial intelligence, the digitalization in the energy sector. So I just want to know whether, do you think countries are really committed to this energy transition, or is actually of their usual politics that they do? If yes, are the developed countries like the US and then the Germans and then those developed countries really committed to help the developing countries, like my country, like Ghana, where they will gather leaders? They just ended the COP27 in Egypt, that they will gather all the world leaders and then speak about energy transition, commitment to the Paris Agreement, and then transferring of energy and then energy technology and all those stuff, and promising them with money, financials to this energy transition? Are they really committed to this energy transition? And then my last question is, what are some of the challenges that hinder hydrogen and the energy transition? Hydrogen is happened to be one of the best candidates in the energy transition. What are some of the challenges that hinder it? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, about commitments. This is it is 90% politics and 10%, I will say, technical energy. In the 10% part of it, leaving the politics, yes, the commitments are there. They commit to it. I don't think it's achievable in the time span they put for this target, because these targets are very complex and very challenging. Okay, and some countries, they will meet because they have the finance and they have the technology, and their CO2 emission are moderate, not so huge. So, and they are fully developed. As part of the other commitment in every COP conference they make, they say we will spend like $100 billion as a financial grant to countries, to build power plants. Okay, to build power plants in wind and solar, but that's not in the undeveloped country. They are not the developed, and that's a solution works in the developed country. It will reduce CO2, but the CO2 in the undeveloped country is not coming from electrical generation, because 80% of this country or 80% of don't have electricity. See the mindset of the Gura mindset, we call it. The CO2, okay, the CO2 emission from non-developed countries not coming from electricity. It's coming from other practices. Okay, their system. So by giving them a grant, and I know this financial grant committed, I think they will achieve them at the, by time and long term, they will achieve them. But they are giving to the electrical plant only, power plant. Yes, some of them for thermal, some of them for hydropower, but in a small amount, but nothing for mega power plant. Let's say like 2,000 megawatt nuclear power plant to feed the whole country, or 3-4 countries in Africa. They don't do that. A small grant for small conversion here and here. But if they're really concerned about CO2 and electricity, the people, they need electricity there. They need it because of their living for electricity. They need it for electrifying their life, to cook. They needed to go to school. They needed to charge vehicles. They need electricity for 80% of their life activities. They don't have it. So that is not aimed to, that's why they're not going for big power plant for them, big investment. And that's unfortunate, really unfortunate. And this is subject is discussed in every COP. They make commitments. They make them in paper. Other point, I mean, when they make all these commitments in papers and they sign to it, believe me, there is something we call hypocrisy. And we've seen this very clearly from the most developed country, for example, Germany, and even in the US. When the prices of oil and gas went up, the US produced more LNG to sell to Europe. And that is hypocrisy, because they committed to reduce investment and to reduce trade, building more gas pipelines, building more oil pipelines. It's also a hypocrisy. It is against their commitment. Reopening a coal power plant in Europe, that's hypocrisy. So when the world go through a conflict or a small war, or they throw the first thing, they stop or they throw these commitments in the recycle bin is this kind of investment that related to environment, related to energy transition, a new project that, you know, make the world clean for the, those are the first commitment they throw in the recycle bin. And we've seen this clearly this year, 2022, we've seen it clearly, this hypocrisy. Because what happened? In the energy transition, we got policy makers, politics has really took over the whole, and they say if the country doesn't commit from the top policymakers, that will not see the light. I disagree with that. I really disagree with that, because we have so many green initiatives and so many projects that is done by the investors, by banks and oil companies, energy companies, and other investors. Is made by an entrepreneur who has partial money and the banks, and they build something nice. It's related to energy. So a lot of investment has taken place without the involvement of head of states or the politics. I think when politics gets involved, anything with any hiccups, with any political, geopolitical event, these commitments that related to environment will be thrown away or delayed for a long time or reshelved. This is why, because politics has interfered. But when banks and business models and feasibility studies are made for certain projects, they really go smooth, and commitment is 100% to the benefit of both parties, and to the benefit, of course, many of them to the poor nations and to the environment. But with politics, I can tell you, any hiccups, any conflict, they throw all these commitments. And it did happen. So many commitments to the African nation will be delayed. Except from the oil producing countries like in the Gulf. We have Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Qatar, and the UAE. They made commitments to build power plants in many of the Caribbean, Pacific countries, and in Africa and Seychelles. And they really went forward and they built this green project with no return. They don't want any profit from this. They want the country to develop. They want the environment to be clean, and they want to keep those countries as virgin as they are with their forest and their wildlife, unaffected by any pollution of having coal or oil to be used for power generation. And that was the aim. And I've seen this project myself. I was present in many inauguration of this project, and I write about these successful stories in my bi-weekly magazine called New Base. I write about these successful stories. Yes, there's two parts of the world here.
Excuse me, brother.
Yes, my dear.
I'm sorry. We have a question from Asghar Sajjad Sahab. And Asghar Sahab, you can ask the question, please.
Mr. Khalid, this is becoming very, very interesting, and while I'm listening to you, a lot of things coming to my mind. And, a lot of people talk about environment, but, you said the hypocrisy. Sincerity is not there. They just talk just to get some fame, to get some name. When they come back home, they are home, they don't do anything, But there is one solution to the problem, but I don't know how. I mean, there is a controversial kind of opinion about that. We are talking about reducing CO2, and I was thinking why we cannot split CO2 into carbon and oxygen and dispose it off as that. And for that, somebody said, well, then we have to use the energy. And I said, well, if energy is, then why don't you use the green energy from sun and wind to do that? So that will solve the problem. This is just a loud thinking I am doing. I don't know if there's a feasibility, is it feasible, not feasible, but that is what came to my mind after listening to you for your bright ideas. What do you think about that?
Okay. Carbon and oxygen is harder to split than water, for example, electrolyzer. This you need electrolyzer. There is electrolyzer to split. There is prototypes made in many universities to split the CO2. It's there. But because CO2 first need to be converted to liquid with certain condition, then they go. It's an expensive process. The cheaper process, they are worried about CO2 going to the upper ionosphere. Okay, so your best way is to capture it and store it in a different form, liquid form or solid form. That is easier than splitting the two atoms. Okay, economically and technically, it is easier and cheaper. That's why now there is a project around the world that to store and convert it or solidified it. Once it is in a solid state, it will remain in its geological formation, I mean, forever as a solid. It will not convert to gas. That's because if you split it to oxygen and carbon, what you will do, there is no benefit from the oxygen and there is no benefit from the carbon. We have plenty of carbon, plenty of oxygen as well. So yes, it is inexpensive. It is. It's been proven in the lab. It can be split, but it is a huge cost. The world went to split water because water is easy to handle. It is there in normal weather condition. It is in liquid state. It can be split, but you will benefit a lot from the hydrogen. Okay, the hydrogen is a very valuable commodity. 1 kilogram of hydrogen equal now $6. It's more expensive than benzene and oil. So hydrogen has a lot of. This is why I am adding to your. I am going to my last point, hydrogen usage. And somebody, I think that was the part of your question. Why we not? What is the future of hydrogen?
Yeah, that was a question.
Yes, sure. So I've covered the CO2 splitting, and the world has diverted its finance and project to hydrogen because for many reasons. Hydrogen has been around in the industries for a long time, and there is usage of hydrogen. Currently, the world produces almost 10 million ton of hydrogen. It's not enough. 10 million ton of hydrogen is equivalent to 5. I'm simplifying the number because I have a rule of thumb to keep it in my mind. 10 million ton per year of hydrogen is equivalent to 5 million barrel of oil. This is the whole world production of hydrogen, 5 million barrel per day for 10 million ton per year. So even if you double that, you will reach to 10 million barrel of oil equivalent. And we said the world almost consumes 300 million barrel of oil equivalent. So you have 300, and if you double the hydrogen, you will get 10 million. So still very small amount of percentage of hydrogen. Hydrogen is produced by many ways. One of them is using, as you said, why don't they use clean energy? Yes, they are using solar, and they are using also network surplus power. There is some plants in the world where surplus power, and instead of converting it to pump power, elevation power, they convert to hydrogen. Hydrogen needs a total infrastructure for the supply chain. We know the supply chain for oil and gas and coal, mining, a little bit of conveyor, shipping by rails, shipping by marine, and the whole supply chain. But for hydrogen, you need a new supply chain. You need new containers, and proven to be not cost effective in compared to other alternatives, but there is a room for hydrogen in the world transmission policies. It may reach up to 3% of the total energy consumed by 2050. 3%, I think it's good. Until now, which it is also research and development, the market for hydrogen is not clear. We know the market for coal, we know the market for oil, we know how many millions of barrels we need for transportation, we know how many trillion cubic foot of natural gas goes for power generation. The market is clear for the other fuel sources. For hydrogen is not clear. Are we going to use it in steel factories? Are we going to use it for cooking? Are we going to use it for transportation, and fuel cell? The whole market for nitrogen is not clear yet. Even to the most intelligent energy expert or the guru. Still, the gurus in energy still don't put in their mind what is the market for hydrogen, how much we're going to use hydrogen in this industries or this region of the world to complement a proper supply chain for that. It's not clear. That's why hydrogen is still expensive on that. And hydrogen, it's not something that's available like natural gas, oil, and coal, or electricity from PV. And no, you have to create the hydrogen. It's like helium. You need to create this gas, hydrogen. So it has a future, but not much. I've seen some prototype of airplane running in hydrogen. It may have a future, but it is not the fuel of the future as we hear in many videos or media publishments. I think the future fuel in the near future will be natural gas, and the far future will be the nuclear or atomic energy is the future fuel. Nuclear energy should be respected and because it's very safe now, should be given a room in the future energy requirement in the long term. I mean, long term, by 2100. But before that, 2050, 2040, I think fossil fuel, natural gas is the future fuel. So sorry, I added more to your answers.
Brother, I think this is also good news for the petroleum engineers. So they will get good jobs in the market and they will work on the projects. So it's like the people are saying that everything will dramatically change in 20, 30, 40. And so it's not going to happen as soon like that. The people are thinking it will take time, and it's a slow and steady process, as you mentioned.
Sure. But petroleum engineers and energy engineers, they are low paid compared to politicians. They don't
this is the
doctors
dilemma.
and engineers do not move the world. They don't make impact.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
But there is yes, all graduates. I believe 50 to 100 years there is a job security. Energy security is another issue. Energy security is another issue, and just because more debate went in energy security because of energy transition. And if you have these two parameters, we have what we call it economics, hardship, and political risk. And we've seen this political risk and economical hardship, high cost. They affect the energy security and energy transition in our world. So this is why we, there is all this hypocrisy and hypocrisies and all this gap between developed world and undeveloped world, and what we've seen because of this political risk.
And one thing I would like to mention, Brother Khalid, as Asghar Sahib also mentioned that the oil prices is very important, and we have seen ups and downs in the oil prices. It disturbed the whole exploration and production. So I think it's also related to geopolitical environment around, and it is mainly depend upon the geopolitical situation around the countries, and that's why the oil gas prices sometimes is not stable.
Yes, see, oil prices, there is books written about oil prices, okay? And there is I always, they ask me what will be the oil price next year. I said, we cannot. Many people do give a number. They say it will be 120, 100. It's all guessing. It's all crystal ball guessing. The oil prices are related to some actions. If this action or event take a place, we know we can list them. I even previously, we had some brainstorming and we made some actions, okay? And we put against each action, how much the oil price will go up or how much it will go down in dollar term. Like, we've seen that Ukraine, Russian action conflict affected the market by $30, but not for the whole year. We also put a duration. We said 6 months or 5 months, $30, and then the impact will come down. But after putting a whole long table, we still see this fluctuation. My reading from other experts in this one summarize in 2 things. Oil prices fluctuation is due to fears and greed. Fear, for example, oh, Russia will attack, oh, Russia will cut the supply, or European will make section, Iran will put mines in the Gulf. These are fears. Fears in the trading. So prices will go up and down. When the fears disappear, the price will go down. When the fears comes, the price will go down. So there is so many kinds of fears. It's all psychological. Fine. The second part is a greed. A greed, you have people who trade in oil. They want to maximize their profit. They make a profit both ways. They make a profit when the price goes down. They make a profit when the price goes up. Platform trading. What can we do? They both times they make a profit. So with this platform, with the intention of a greed in many transactions, price also will fluctuate. Sometimes they sell a lot. They see the price good and they sell millions of barrels. They sell a lot. When they put a lot to sell, the price will go down. Sometimes no. Oh, the market is too tight. The market in the bear market. Okay, they hold up. The price goes up. It's all agreed. They manipulate the market for the benefit of maximizing their profit because they have bought a big share on Tango or the hedging they did, and so many things. So greed and fear make the oil prices goes up and down. Supply, demand make the prices stable. We know the price is going up. We know the price is going up smoothly. That is due to supply and demand, the normal science of economics. Prices goes up smoothly, but they don't fluctuate. All these fluctuations are due to fear and greed in the oil trading market.
Brother, the topic is very much interesting. That's why Mr. Roxin has come up with another question. Before his question, I would like to just mention one thing, like maybe a question that if we look to the United States, the number of students in petroleum engineering, it was like more than 2,300. Right now, nowadays, in Canada and specifically in the United States, the number of petroleum engineers they are graduating is just 400, maybe 300, or something like 500. And if you look to the crisis or maybe the instability in the prices, the oil prices in the last decade, so lots of professionals, they switched from the oil and gas industry to other industry, and many people, they are retired. So do you think there is a huge gap in the oil and gas industry, and how the industry is going to tackle this problem? And secondly, how do you think that the artificial intelligence and big data, that it will change the working structure of the petroleum engineers in the future?
Yes. Digitization and artificial intelligence has moved already in many oil companies. Even let's say in Aramco spent $100 billion for digitization. Yes, that's a big amount, huh?
Very big.
Yes, that's their budget. They set a budget of $100 billion for digitization of all their operations. That means they will need oil and energy expert, oil and gas graduate, petroleum graduate, and they will need the artificial intelligence for digitalization process graduate.
Exactly.
Okay, so this and they will need leaders and managers that are, with this kind of qualification, technical qualification. That is a must.
Thank you.
And they are not. And ADNOC, the major oil company in UAE, already started that investment for digitalization. They've 5 years ago they started with generation 4. Now they are going with generation 5. They have a lot of need and demand for these two projects. These two major of education and academic graduate. The postgraduate will take experience in the oil and gas, and then they will join other companies in their venture of 5 years. After 5 years, up to their career of 30 years, they will have more exposure. I think for 100 years maximum, 50 years minimum, there is a need for that. What made this hiccup is that in COP25 and COP24, they said we need to stop investment. Oil companies need to stop investment in oil and gas project. See what happened now. They regret that. Many countries in the Middle East, especially in the GCC, did not do that. Aramco, ADNOC, Kuwait, Oman, Qatar did not listen to that. They put more investment in oil and gas. Okay. Exxon, Total, Energy, Shell, and BP, Chevron, they reduced in 2018-19, they reduced their investment in that part. And they have the weight with academic, because when they do that, their fund to colleges and university in the petroleum mining sector reduces. And even the grant, the financial grant they give to others in that field, to SME, small companies, reduces because of the political declaration, policymakers that came with reduce. Now they regret that. Totally, they regret that. Now they are, especially in Europe, they are investing in gas infrastructure to the whole supply chain of natural gas, the whole supply chain. They are spending billions, hundreds of billions to rebuild what, they have made a mistake on that, especially in natural gas. So that was a political pressure, I can tell you. And when politics comes in energy, it makes hiccups and, and hypocrisies as well. Because
thank you very much.
Roxanne, you can ask the question, please.
Yeah. So thank you very much once again. When we have the opportunity to meet the experts, we always want to ask all the questions and get the inside information, and then we can go out. So that's why I ask a lot of questions like that. So anyway, there is a school of thought that oil and gas have reached its peak in terms of recovery. I want to know whether this is actually true. If it is true, we think it is good. It is in the interest of the world to be looking at other energy resources as part of energy security than only assuming, even if we're not saddled with this issue regards to oil and gas being the enemy to contributor, the main contributor to CO2. Won't we be looking at other means as part of energy security and going forward in future?
Okay. Oil peak, oil security, and energy security. Oil peak has changed the graph many times according to the year. It was supposed to peak long time ago. The only reason this issue came back again of oil peak is the pandemic, COVID. We had almost 3 years of COVID restrictions. That restrictions limited the transportation, all transportation, especially flying, and closed down of Europe, America, China, India. They closed up. They reduced the number of they reduced oil, and they reduced even the emission. The emission came down, CO2 came down during the hardship of COVID. And now it's coming up, oil demand is coming up. I don't believe that oil has peaked. It may peaked at 2040, 2050. I will say yes, there will be a peak there. It will peak for many reasons. I mean, I don't think we have time for that. And it's good for the world to go to alternatives. At least it will preserve this oil and gas for our new generation, for the future generation. We don't want to consume it, although it will never deplete as long as we are alive. That's my secret belief. Okay, oil peak. Even if it happens, when we see oil peak, when we see a drop down in oil demand. The only drop down we saw is because of COVID, and that was natural. But actually, oil demand has not, if we correct the COVID factor, do correction. This is what we do in engineer. We always correction factors. If we correct the demand for oil and remove the impact of COVID, oil will have been at 110 today. Now it's 103. So there is a growth. During COVID, it went down to 88 million barrels per day. So we lost about 20 million of oil sales. Now it's back to pre-COVID, or even higher, 103. It is expected to grow by 2.5 million barrels per day in the next 5 years. That's the demand. So in 5 years, it will go. And after 5 years, I mean, it will be at 115, 120 million barrels per day. Going down, I still don't see it because we still need crude oil. Crude oil is needed for funny reason, for many things. But the funniest thing, crude oil is needed to produce natural gas. And that is the magic of, see, whatever alternative they do, they need the crude oil to produce natural gas. And natural gas, what they need it for electrifying all our life. For electrifying our life. So if we go back, where this electricity came from? Crude oil. Of course, crude oil is a commodity that is in every part around us. If you look around you, everything here, everything around you, laptop, the silicon chips that it is for the PLCs and integrated circuits, the glass to produce, I mean, many things, polymers, plastics around our life, the clothing we wear, the vines, the yarn, 90% of it coming from crude oil. So crude oil will be there, and the need for crude oil will be there forever, as long as there is human. Okay, oil peak is not there. Now we move to the other part of your is energy security. See, energy security is a function, a mission has been given to the political sector of the energy secretary, let's call it, or in some other country we call it the Ministry of Energy. So it is policyed. It's part of the policy makers, and that is okay. It's fine. At least it will have some rigid policies, and it is needed. Energy security does not mean everything goes to renewable, because there is no security there if you go to all windmill and solar. No, energy security means SPR, for example. One of the energy securities now they are, it's improving SPR in the USA. One of the, crude oil storage and gas, natural gas storage, even in Europe and in China. That is part of the energy security, and the government play a big role in that. There is the private sector also, we call it the commercial reserves, and then become the strategic reserve, which is part of the government duty to keep that. But the industries and the private sector also, they keep that to protect their investment. Look at ExxonMobil or Aramco. They have invested hundreds of billions of dollars in the infrastructure. And for them, for their benefit, to get back their money, they need energy security. It is a conglomerate of everything. You have green resources, fossil resources, nuclear resources, agriculture resources, organics and organic, even from allergy and everything. You need to produce a source of energy. That's the energy securities. And it is a vital role. And I think every country should have two ministers. Minister of Energy and Minister of Energy Security. It's just not given to one person. It should be given to two persons and should be a department for that to secure energy for both the supply and the consumption and the storage. Without energy storage, the economics will not be secure. Prices will go very high. Believe me, without natural gas storage and oil storage, oil prices will be at $500 per barrel or more. One of the reasons oil is very cheap is because we have huge storage and it is easy to store it above ground. Yes, it is underground, stored and peacefully, but still there is a small process to store natural gas and oil product like aviation fuel and gas oil, diesel, gasoline, ethanol. It's all part of the energy arena and energy security. I hope I answered your question regarding energy security.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you, Khalid. And we have one question from Asghar Sajjad Saab. And Asghar Saab, you can ask the question, please.
It's related to Jawad, your apprehension about the petroleum engineers, and for the future. I just want to tell you about this thing that since I started the petroleum engineering, at that time, there was only one university in Pakistan who was producing petroleum engineer, and there was only 12 students in class, After that, this is a human nature, they are very hasty, they are very erratic kind of actions, when they see something that there is something is working, they start in a like a massive. Now there is about 6 universities giving the same course, which I think every class has 40 students, So what is going to happen is it's a flooded with all the petroleum engineers. There was no jobs, and then people started switching to different kind of careers. This recently, what has happened, that in Texas, in Midland, they produced they fractured. The fracturing was becoming really a big thing, and every company was, spending billions of dollars fracturing the reservoirs. All of a sudden, the price went down, and all the companies shut down their operations, and they abandoned everything, and they went bankrupt. Now, again, the prices, because of the temporarily, this is a Ukraine situation, the price went up to $100, $120, and all the activities are again started. Now, tomorrow, when the war will go down, the price will go down, everybody will again shut down it. So oil industry, I have seen for last 50 years, so many ups and downs that people are crazy. This is a situation, but petroleum engineers were required and will be required, but at a certain level, they have to keep a balance. They cannot flood the people. When there is a demand, they overproduce it. And when there's no demand, they shut down the universities. That is not the way how things should be, but that's the way the human being is. They are erratic, they are, abrupt kind of actions. That's what they do. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Asghar Sajjad Sahab, and it was a wonderful comment. And I would like to thank you, Khalid Alwadi, and it was a really very wonderful and very informative. And I have also recorded the session, and I will also share with you people as well. And at the end of the presentation, Khalid Alwadi, if you please, if you would like to say something as a closing remarks, and then Amjad Sahab and Roxanne MD, and we will just close the session, please. And if you would like to say something at the end of the presentation, please just go for it.
Okay. I am energy graduate does not mean they work in the petroleum or gas. I think as a graduate in petroleum and mineral can be also a good chemical engineer, can be a good mechanical engineer. So there is opportunity on that sector. It's not necessary to go in the oil. When the oil sector goes down, this engineer can move to power generation and other. No matter. All I would like to say that energy will revolve around humanity. As long as there is humanity, energy will be required, and especially fossil energy. Fossil energy, bad. It has one bad side effect that we know now. It is CO2 emission. However, other alternatives, we still don't know what is their side effects. Okay, there could be other consequences of moving into alternatives. In general, I don't think the fossil energy can be replaced by any source, totally, not even 50%. As we calculated, we almost use an equivalent of 300 million barrels per day of fossil fuel. It may reduce by other alternatives, but there is no complete, not even 50%, not even 60. So we will always have fossil fuel complemented by green energy and other resources. The most I have passion for, and I think, is the nuclear and atomic energy.
Thank you very much.
And for people who would like to venture also, there is engineering in all these fields. Is from renewable to nuclear to fossil petroleum mining. And mining is required now and will be required forever. There is no replacement for mining.
Thank you very much. I think you have explained very well, and I think that's why our audience was asking so many questions, and it was really very interesting. And you discussed about the carbon capturing and CO2, oil and gas industry, the renewables, the future, and about every aspect. So it is a great pleasure to be here today with you. And I would like Amjad, if you have any comment, please.
Jawad.
Yeah.
Jawad, I just want to ask if you can ask Mr. Khalid that if we can invite him to our forum and have a similar lecture among us,
Yeah. So
yes, I will spare the time for that. Sure.
Thank you very much, Khalid. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you.
No problem.
And
thank you very much. Thank you very much, Khalid. It was a very wonderful interactive discussion between the audience and yourself. And we would like to have such type of interactive discussion in future. Whenever you have the time, you are most welcome to this forum, and as well as there is another forum of Petroleum Engineering Group headed by Asghar Saab. So we can arrange a meeting in that forum too, if you have time. So we will definitely invite you. Thank
No
you very
problem.
much.
I think, Yazani Sab, there are, Khalid, brother, I would like to mention, I think there are more than 200 professionals around the world in their group. They're working in different parts of the world and quite experts. So I think it would be wonderful if we give some time for them. And as you accepted, I really appreciate it. And now
Sure,
we
sure.
have, we have Natalia as a student, and she's also working in Liberton, Amjad Yazdani, MD Zakaria, Azhar Saab, Roxanne, you all and the people who joined us before. So I'm very thankful to all of you. And it was really a wonderful presentation.
And don't forget to share the energy new base with them.
Yes, thank you very much.
It has some add-on beef.
Yeah, definitely I will share it. And I will also share with Azhar Saab in the open group as well. Yes.
Excellent. Excellent. Very good. Well, it was a pleasure, my pleasure to speak to you guys, and at any time. And I thank you, Jawad, for arranging this forum. And yes, I am open to future forums and discussions of this type.
Really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you very much. All.
Thank you very much, all. Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you, Khalid. Thank you very much.
Bye.
Thank you all. You're welcome. You're welcome. Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much for such an insightful presentation.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, goodbye.
Goodbye.